My name is Ron Hawkins. I currently live in Washougal. And like I said, I just retired from the Camas paper mill on its fourth name since I got hired. Well, I started in Maine, where I went through kindergarten through third grade. My family moved to Vermont. I went fourth through almost all of seventh. Moved out west and went to the last month of JDZ in Camas. Moved again to Washougal and did eighth grade through senior year at Washougal. Graduated in 1974. Obviously, the population has increased as well as the city's boundaries. And then, of course, the school system does very well, even on a statewide level. This school here is an example of how much they put into education for you folks. Downtown core, there's been a lot of businesses. A lot of the small ones have come and gone, like the Sears and the Pennies and all those. The other businesses have moved a little bit outside of the main downtown, such as Wesley Ford, which is now out by the highway, to capture that business. One of the areas of expertise for me is the bowling, local bowling. Downtown Camas used to have a 4-lane bowling alley 1 block from the paper mill, which is now known as the dance studio. And that's where pin boys had to jump down in and set the pins back up by hand and then roll the ball back to the people at the other end. And that was there from 1938 to 1958. And from there, they moved to down by what is known as a skate park now. Well, we had other things there then that aren't there now, like Riverview Bank across the street from Safeway, where Safeway is now, which is, I think, is the third or fourth Safeway in Camas. One of the earlier Safeways is the Union Hall for the paper mill now, which is on near the foot of the hill of Dallas, if you know where the post office is. Kitty corner to that was originally a Safeway store. And then they were downtown. The next one that I knew was in the parking, where the parking lot is now. And then they turned the building, they built another building, turned it sideways and closed off that part of Garfield. But the Riverview Bank was the Camas Inn. Not knowing what you've heard in other interviews, the Camas Inn was built originally for the paper mill in the late 1800s, early 1900s to assist the mill employees, which worked 2 shifts back then, 6 days a week. Either worked 11 an hour day shift or a 13-hour night shift. For me personally, it would have to be the reduction in workforce in the mill. When I got hired, hourly and salary, there was close to 3,000 employees. Currently, with hourly and salary combined, there's maybe about 180. It's a nice community since it's near big hubs like Vancouver, Portland, but it's far enough away where it's more of a friendly environment. You know a lot more people that you see on the streets, so that's what I like about where I live. No, the small town motif, the specialty shops that they have, the Mall Street that was created in the early 60s with all the trees and stuff on 4th Avenue, all gives it that distinct home feel. I worked for years in converting operations, so your next fun note is making bathroom tissue, basically making little rolls out of big ones. Our motto was, we bust ours to keep yours clean. So we used that on our wall in the converting operations, and we made all kinds of bathroom tissues and folded towels and rolled towels. But my goal was always to tell people in the community that we were operating environmentally safe. And I worked for a lot of years and got into the same department my father worked until he retired. And that was environmental. Technical operations was the name department. I worked in environmental compliance. My main job was air quality, so I would climb on all those roofs you see that have the stacks on them and run equipment into those and test it and send that off to the Washington Department of Ecology, Environmental Protection Agency. Well, one of the things I volunteer for is bowling, so I miss the Riverside Bowl. So yeah, I'm the first vice president of the Clark County United States Bowling Congress. The 18 board members represent all 2,000 bowlers at all the centers in Clark County. And we just recently hosted the Washington State tournament, so we had people from all over the state, some of them driving 7-8 hours. We had over 3,000 participants in that. So I miss not having anything in East Clark County. Big Al's is the next closest thing for us. So that's kind of my home house now. Well, I don't know where the mill will be. Obviously, they use about, if you looked at an aerial view of the main mill, they probably use 25 acres out of the 165 anymore. So there's eventually going to be some demolition. The research labs no longer exist, but we did accelerated tree growth along with a lot of other research. We had a tremendous amount of PhDs and doctorates up there. So they learned how to grow like 50-year trees in like 12 to 15 years. And that helped us in the timber supply, where when we had all our forest land, we were always planting more than we harvested. Well, I have to go with the paper mill just because it employed so many people. Everyone was either working at the mill or at one time dependent on the mill for their businesses there. So the history, of course, Washington became a state 1889. The mill was already 6 years old at that time. It was built in 1883. It had burned down, they've rebuilt, and of course they've added on dozens of times over the years. A lot of people don't realize the mill was built, then they plotted the town. A lot of people think it was the other way around. And what they did first is they actually build a wooden dam on Round Lake, the first of 3 dams, to back up the water to supply the lumber mill they made, the sawmill, so they could cut the lumber, and then build a flume from the lake all the way to the mill so they could float the logs down, and then they built the mill. I did research on my own over the years with several different periodicals and books, and narrowed it down to the day of groundbreaking was August 28th, 1883 is when they broke ground on the actual paper mill.